Hello, I'm Matthew Mile Gray. Welcome to the channel. Very glad that you were able to join me. So I'm reflecting on day 3. It is the 9th of February and Norway Supreme Court has had the state versus Jehovah's Witnesses. And I thought I would reflect on the day, on the feelings that I had while observing this and trying to see what's actually happened, trying to just make sense of things, of what's actually unfolding. So what you're about to hear is my working thesis, and I normally say take the thesis with antithesis, or this is the strategy, take it with antithesis for synthesis. So it's in the spirit of synthesis, or in the spirit of essential critical thinking. And I say, please come with a healthy skepticism. So errors and omissions are accepted. There's imperfect translation. That is part of the process. And so just please keep that in mind. I think that's a healthy way to present things. So today I'm just diving into this day 3, as I've mentioned, February 9, 2026. Day 3 of the Supreme Court of Norway, State versus Jehovah's Witnesses. Mentioned that. So much of this was in Norwegian, and that presents a challenge. I'm still examining it carefully. I do transcribing. I've been transcribing for a long time. But with the language, it presents a difficulty. So I have to rely on technology to help me. And of course, there's nuances. There's nuances in Norwegian. So yeah, I will take all the help I can get. I'm going to continue examining it. So this is my disclaimer, and it's also my invitation. If you want to make some comments on some of the things that you've noticed that maybe I've missed or tripped up on, let's navigate this together. And the first thing I should do is actually put my glasses on. So let me do that. So it's good to work with notes rather than just wing it. So let me do that. I do have some notes of some of the things that I want to say. Straight up baffled me. Yeah. So, yeah, there's quite a few things that stood out today. I was trying to think, was there a greater load? Did I feel there was a greater load today? There was a different dynamic. I think I did get some rest in, and I sort of felt a bit better. But I also felt that it was heavier in another way today. And so just trying to tie directly into everything that I've been reflecting on recently about this Norway Supreme Court case. It comes back to the thing that you say, Matt, you keep on about double binds. Yeah. I reflect about double binds because that's, I believe, a key into the difficulty I personally got into. And I somehow keep seeing this recurring with others. So to me, I look at this and I go, this is a keen thing to, or a key thing to reflect upon. These double bind dynamics, or when you get a conflict of, two orders that comes from an authority that they expect you to adhere to. And I weigh this against ethics, my ethical orientation, if you want to call it supreme natural law or spiritual law, or ground oneself in, Socratic teaching. It's that kind of thing. So let's just break down some of the language versus lived experiences that came up, just so that we dive into it and it's easier to process, I hope. So Rizdal's strategy. Now Rizdal represents Jehovah's Witnesses or Watchtower, or its instrumentalities, right, for the religion, for the religious community. So it's really becoming apparent what Rizdal's strategy is. You could say it's crystallizing, or it's becoming crystal clear as to what it is. He's trying to frame this as a matter of semantics. Yeah. And again, notice what comes up. Compare it to the day 2, and you'll see that it's about this shunning, this word shunning, which, by the way, the word shun appears in the 2013 Revised Standard Edition Bible New World Translation, which Jehovah's Witnesses use. It's in there. And shunning, you're going to find it in the culture. You're going to find the word shun in the literature. So what's going on? Remember, we were talking about, did he actually lie? Or this is semantic strategy. What is this? Is this his professional way of dealing with things? So let's bear that in mind. Did he lie? Didn't he? How's he framing it? What's his semantics? We've got to analyze this, because remember, when we give a thesis, it's also good to have the antithesis or the antithesis to arrive at the synthesis. So of course, this is, I say, at the city gate. So I invite persons to comment, to improve upon things, because I can't do this alone. Who can do this alone? You have to be a supercomputer to try and fathom what's actually happening. But I believe we're zeroing in on what his strategy is. Rizdal is framing this as a matter of semantics. So he's downplaying the shunning. Correct me if I'm wrong again, as he's trying to define it as persons with conscience avoiding. There's limited association, or there's social distancing. There's avoidance, there's social distancing. Now, bear in mind that Jehovah's Witnesses as an institution teach it and expect it. There's a distinction between natural avoidance or somebody's autonomy to do this. This is something that's expected from the institution. So let's keep that in mind, so that things aren't blurred, because I believe, in my opinion, this is Rizdal's strategy, because he repeatedly stresses neutral meaning. Did I get that right? I'm going to propose. He stresses neutral meaning. Marginal. And that it doesn't indicate difficult family conflicts. That's what I was hearing. And it confused me. But I think that was his strategy. I think he was using selected witness testimony, which is, dare I say, cherry picking, which is how one would defend this in a legal setting. So he's using selected witness testimony to show. This is why I'm confused. To show normal social integration. So yeah, I'm confused because if he's doing this, it's almost like he's saying the family just carries on as per normal. And I believe the way he's framing it is like even if they show a video that comes from Jehovah's Witnesses, that comes from Watchtower, that shows limiting distance or limiting association, or some say shunning, which he says or implies is apostate, strongly implies is apostate. He's going, well, I want you to have it in mind that that's those persons' interpretation. We're just filming their interpretation, their conscience. This isn't JW, this isn't the Watchtower. And I think that's the trick. I think that's the trick that's being used. So when Watchtower quotes, oh, there's a family that did this or took this kind of stand, they're going, yeah, no, that was that family. That's all we're reporting. We're just reporting that that's what they did. It's clever, eh? It's clever because that's the way it forms its society, that it forms its religion and governs its control. So I think that this Norway, which has had a lot of eyes on it, is really teaching us a lot of the strategy. And Rizdal is giving us an insight into the leadership's thinking. He really is. I'm going to visit personally this Norway Supreme Court case because there's a lot to unpack, and that's why I say I can't just, present it in a day 3 and say this is definitive, this is the entire thesis. I think I'm going to be coming back to this and gleaning all sorts of things because it was packed. That's why I go. What was my feeling? My feeling was there was a cognitive load. I was more rested, but it was heavy in another way because there was, as I said, this selected witness testimony that was showing normal social integration. But let's get to the state. Because Liv, who's representing the state here, and even the judges, right? I felt they were probing. They kept probing the real effects of the practices, not just the words. And I was going, I hope I've caught this right. I hope I've got this right, because that's what I thought was happening. I'd like somebody just to say, Matt, yes, we picked up the same thing as well. Because it seemed to me they were asking, this language that you're using or that you're pointing to, Rizdal, does this language predictably result in social, familial, family, and psychological harm? And I'm going to come back to the double bind problem that I've been pointing to, that I found in my career as an elder and special pioneer and Bethel worker, all of these things that I find keeps coming up. I mean, my shepherding was all about this. I would say largely it was about these kind of things, and then the damage that it was doing. And that's why I say I was living in Gaga land, because I hadn't sort of connected. Oh, well, this is how the religion is. I kept going, oh no, you haven't studied enough. You haven't broken through spiritually. Not realizing, no, this is a systemic problem. This is what many persons are chirping is the problem. Matt, this is the problem. This is what we've been trying to communicate to you. So yeah, I want to recognize that this is exactly the double bind problem, the catch-22 paradox that I've been pointing to, that many others have been pointing to, that, you have obedience to institute or organizational instruction. and it leads to predictable harm. And I want to say that that's what I picked up the judges had tapped into, but I kind of suppressed the hooray moment. I go, have I really caught this correctly? Because that's what I was hoping would come through, and I don't know if I'm just reading into it too much, but yeah, it's this predictable harm, even if the language seems neutral, right? So I picked up that the judges in the state were zeroing in on that. So this is also what I picked up that Liv was mentioning, because again, I had a flabbergasted moment with Rizdal. Like he was saying, oh no, there's no evidence of this harm. I'm going, let me get his words right. Is he misleading, or is he just lying outright? Because I can't believe he's just outright lying. And I'm going, I've got to question what I've heard or what I'm interpreting from coming from him. So Liv was taking the stance. We don't need to have these cases. And this is where I was questioning myself, and I was questioning things that has happened with me. I have solid evidence about abuses, and I realized that in legal speak, you can have a recording, you can have a video, you can have a paper trail of what was said and witnesses. And in legal speak, they say, no, you don't have evidence. That's not evidence. And I realize it's legal speak that's able to do that. So I acknowledge this. And that's where jurisprudence comes in, the science of law. So the state's argument is the key moment for this jurisprudence. I have discussed jurisprudence in previous videos. So it's this preventative action versus documented harm. And what I heard or interpreted from Liv, the state, was that, no, do you want to have disasters so that now we can take action? Or we can actually see from precedents that this is lined up for a disaster. We have to be responsible as the state, as government, to prevent it from happening. And my mind went to South African police, because it goes, oh yes, we're upholding law, but it also says prevention of crime. And this is where I come into some kind of conflict, because I'm going, we're trying to prevent a disaster. That's what we're trying to do. I know that there's disasters happening, but I'd like to prevent further disasters. I'd like to prevent further harm. That's the solution that's coming in. This isn't complaining, trying to build solutions. This is what it is. So Liv, from what I could gather, was basically saying, and I'm paraphrasing and the translation, and I hope I got it right, the law allows preventative action where practices are likely to violate rights. To require specific victims would mean the state must fail before it can act. To me personally, I felt that was like a hooray moment. But I don't want to celebrate. I mean, I've gone through this so long. Yeah. I'm very guarded about going hooray. So what I felt today was we had a flip of the usual expectation that harm must already exist, which was Rizdale's or Anders Rizdale's stance. So the state recognizes structural coercion. I want to get Liv's surname, because I don't want to just use her first name if I'm using the name Risdale. And I think of the angel Gabrielson, Liv Gabrielson, who I also believe was struggling with health again today. I could see the state was struggling. I'm also endeavoring to try and look at this from what each side did right, what each side may have had weaknesses with as well. And I looked at Liv Gabrielson, and I was looking at just her health, and I'm going, man, I think she has got either allergy or flu or a cold or something like that, because it seemed like she was actually coughing. She had a glass of water, I noticed, and she put it underneath the desk or the table from where she was operating. But I believe she got it through that, yeah, why must you actually have cases of harm that must already exist? Because the state is recognizing the structural coercion that's built into the practice itself. And if anything, Anders Risdale was exposing what your top tier actually thinks within Jehovah's Witnesses, within Watchtower. So I hope that this is aligning with the insight. I don't want to just go in the video, I told you so, I told you so, I told you so. I don't like that. I'm not drawn to that kind of thing. I want to tread carefully and go, well, let's see how this unfolds, because sometimes even a day later or even later in the day or a week later, I look back and I go, things have changed. The perception has changed. But I just want to propose, I hope that what's happened today is aligning with the insight and the lived experience, not just of myself, but many who have gone through these kind of challenges. It's not that there's just, no evidence reported, though you might have recordings, though you might have documents, though you might have witnesses. This idea of no evidence reported. I want to add that the structure discourages the reporting practice. It actually discourages it. I've had persons in the congregation where a really strong husband has taken off his belt in front of others and gone crazy with this belt. And I can see that he's sharp-minded, he's confident. And I'm going, he's so brazen with this that he's not concerned that persons are filming him. Thankfully, in that particular case that I'm relating, the wife or the sister in the congregation went to the police. And I can only go by what she said to me. She says, yes, the police put him in the back of their vehicle and they took him away. But he was released. He was released. So I don't know the ins and outs of what actually happened there. And in his particular case, I can report that he was removed from the congregation, but took ages. And I don't believe he was removed because of that incident. I believe he was removed for something else. But I'm trying to say that, even when you have this evidence, it gets called no evidence. And I realize you've got to say alleged, even if you're looking at a video and you're going clear as day, this is just violent. This is out of control. So, yeah, if you're doing an antithesis, you go, well, wasn't that AI? This was before AI became available. This was multiple persons that were witnessing this and filming this on their cell phones. So this is before that time. Remember, I've been working on this for some years. This is not just recently or in the past year or even the past 3 or 4 years. Been working on this for a very, very long time, even into decades. I'd say I've been working on this for decades. Of course, it's become more obvious as to where the key problems are coming from. So this idea of no evidence reported, you can say, is not on a good footing, because often the structure discourages reporting. That's why I say to you, those listening, I say, I send through the postal system registered post, and I can see the branch not picking it up. Can see it on the system, and I just go, right, let's just record that. Let's take it to its end, let it cycle, and use another approach. And I've used multiple approaches, and had things receipted. Right? So I can say to any persons that are wanting to write into the branch, you've got to be very, very specific. If you're going to use the postal system, you might just want to do it. Just say, oh, well, I have used it, but you're going to need another approach. And I'm even going to suggest you need insiders as well to say, also confirm. Yeah, when you see that so-and-so signed for it, they sign just with their first name. They've been instructed to do this. But it helps if you've got persons that are pursuing supreme ethics, who are going, yeah, we've been tracking this discreetly. This is what we can say. This is what we can't say. It really, really helps, because I do believe that there are persons of conscience. In my experience, I believe there's persons of conscience that are going, that this whole thing is loaded with structural coercion built into preventing the report. And so much so, that's why Anders Risdal can say, oh no, these reports, it's overinflated. Or perhaps he actually said there is no evidence reported. And that's what I thought I heard him say. There's no evidence reported. I'm just not sure about it, because it's translation. So I don't want to just come outright and go, no, this is just, what are you saying, Anders? The structure discourages reporting, and that's what is very concerning. That's what I found. Congregants crying to me about, saying, Matt, do you know we have reported to your new Kobe? Do you know we have reported to the new substitute circuit overseer, or the new needs greater? And it's going terrible. We are becoming the problem for going. There's somebody standing up at the assembly who's used as a model of Christian life, and we're telling you this person is abusive, and we're the problem now. And I've got a mate or I've got a family member who is just messed up because of this person. And you find the manipulation goes on and on and on. Like this one elder, he steps aside and you go, oh, finally his conscience got to him. No, he came off just to get the heat off him. And I discovered that one of these abusive characters, it's just very cleverly slipped through, because it's almost like, oh, there's a reset. He's been disciplined, just stop holding grudges. And you go, he didn't come clean. He didn't come clean. It was performative. So I believe Gabrielson, Liv, and the lawyers that were in front there, they were pointing with their questions, or they were pointing with their argument, that the coercion is systemic, not anecdotal. It's not just a Matt Gray yapping on YouTube about it, or yapping on social media about it, or in the, what do we say, the city gates, because he's used up Matthew 18:15 to 35. So now, you know, going by scripture, it's got to come to the city gates. It really has to. And I think that's where we are spiritually, or if you want to say metaphorically or metaphysically. And I realize when I talk like that, I've got to be careful, because you know, we're in a materialistic world, so it doesn't recognize that. It just goes, no, hang on. Where are you talking from? I'm talking from the way that my mind was trained. That's how my mind was trained. So I gravitate towards a scripture like Matthew 18, because that's how they say that they do things. That's where they say the two-witness rule comes from, or in part it comes from. So the coercion is built into the system itself. That's what I found came through by the lawyers and also the judges, or those sitting at the table hearing. And I sort of felt, oh, that's an acknowledgement, because that's noting the double bind orders and the conflicting instructions and the punishment of inquiry, when you're saying, well, which Lord do you want us to obey here? Right? So even if some individual witnesses, and I say witnesses, Jehovah's Witnesses, but I also play on this thing, I'm a witness. I'm always a Jehovah's Witness, whatever happens, because I've witnessed what's occurred. And you might see that brochure I've been working on, Leviticus 5:1. I'm called to witness. I'm called to testify what I experienced. And this is what I experienced as a Jehovah's Witness. That's what I've experienced. So, and I also am very grateful for some writing in. It's taken courage for various ones to comment and write in and tell me some of their experiences. So I want to say, you've come with courage. Thank you. And I can see that the way you're writing in, you're governed by ethics. So thank you very much for that. So even if some individual witnesses maintain normal relationships, the organizational design creates predictable pressure and fear. And I know this about accident reports. If you've got a township and you don't have near misses and you don't have accidents, you're a statistical irregularity. Because if you've got so many persons, statistically it's like, it's not impossible, but it's very unlikely that there's just no near misses or no accidents. And so that if you have an organization or you have a township like the Johannesburg branch where there aren't, I'm not saying that the branch doesn't have the accident reports or near misses. Does. I do know that it does have that. But I'm talking about a situation where there's none, like what Anders was implying. Oh no, there's none of these reports or none of this evidence. That would raise a flag, because it's statistically next to impossible. They're going, no, it's very, very unlikely for a place to have no accident reports. No. So the judges, I felt, because of that principle that I'm trying to describe, maybe imperfectly with accident reports, but I felt that it was becoming more apparent that just with the questioning and the state and the judges that were listening to this, that the organizational design creates predictable pressure and fear, and Rizdal's legal framing versus the human reality is that they don't tally, because Rizdal was repeatedly trying to argue that, oh no, baptism is never pressured. These 8-year-old baptisms, or it could be even younger than that. But this idea of we follow Jesus Christ. Well, Jesus Christ baptized around 30 plus or minus. So this thing of children baptism, 8 years of age or younger, and that it's never pressured, is something strange here. But again, it's advocacy. It's him doing his job. I heard something like negative social control is not legally recognized. And the social distancing doesn't equal social isolation. But I'm going to say it's really weighted. If you go, oh, well, technically there was something like, well, some limited interaction. It's still constraining to a degree that it's harmful. So what I saw the judges doing was they kept bringing it back to actual lived experience and consequences, which is precisely the gap I hope that in the videos I've been making that's been coming through. It's the policy versus practice, the doctrine versus the harm. So I've got a paper trail, I've got receipts, I've got witnesses. That would be exactly the type of evidence showing harm, yet Anders Risdale argues that's not evidence. So that tension I felt was mirrored in the state's concern over systemic harm. So Liv Gabrielson, that's what I thought I was hearing. So now here's the subsidies part, because you talk about subsidies and leverage. So I'm not the only one that's making notes on this. I think there have been people that have been going to tremendous lengths to make notes. And somebody said to me, are you aware of this person making notes? Or you're aware of this group making notes? And I said, oh yeah, I am aware of that. Let me take a look. Ah, there's a match. There's a match. That's interesting. So for those that are taking notes, if you think that your notes are not worthwhile, they are worthwhile, because we get to see independent patterns. We can start matching up these notes and seeing what's coming through as the same. So one of the things that I did was I started taking a look around and seeing, okay, what forums can I get onto? Where can I see that persons have really tried hard to make notes about this? And I discovered this pattern that tallies with my notes. And again, I'm saying you can argue against this, but this is what my finding was. I found that in our notes, what matched was that the state funding is conditional. This is what Liv Gabrielson was saying. He was saying the state requires documentation of corrective measures. Okay. So what was now raised is this question: does the organization change its practices or just its language? And I was like, oh yeah, did you pick this up? Great. So shunning, no. This is limited association. Shunning, no, we don't do disfellowshipping anymore. That's changed. And what was now identified? No, it's a change of language. But the core practices remain the same. So that's the semantic maneuvering problem that I felt was surfacing, and I'm going, oh, okay, this is finally there. So when it just changes language and it updates like an elder's book, SLF, Shepherd the Flock of God, or changes meetings with new words, new light, It's just surface compliance. They're trying to bamboozle people because there isn't any real change. And my experience and my input is that that's what I saw in the past in the religion. Saw this happening from the weed class, from the weeds, what I call the weeds. So the ethical and systemic insight, I hope, is this. So when I frame higher ethics and I say, oh, we're at the city gates, this is city gates testimony. You're getting Matt Gray, who was a pioneer, didn't get my doctorate, I didn't get a professorship, I didn't get a degree because why? I'm out in the bush pioneering. I'm working in a branch. So this is the best that I can do in my analytics and in my examination because I really applied myself. I really applied myself to do my job. This was my full-time career. So I say, here we are at the city gates. This is my testimony, as imperfect as it may be. And I might refer to supreme consciousness, and you go, Matt, you're sounding very new age. But I'd like to say, I hope that it actually connects with what the state is recognizing. Because what I heard was the state recognizing, and even the judges recognizing, the structural harm, not waiting for formal evidence. So I even was looking at Anders, and I sensed that this irritated him. Don't know if I interpreted that right, but that was what I had sensed. I sensed, oh, he's not sitting well with him. You know, look when he starts writing or circling. I'm going, what's he actually writing there? Circling something. You know, okay. And I saw his pursing of the lips again. I saw those tells coming through. I was watching that. And also when he starts looking at Liv, and I'm going, is he trying to distract? What's he trying to do here? Is this performative? What's actually going on? So those kind of thoughts were crossing my mind. I'm not conclusive about it, but that's what I sort of felt was going on, or I want to just put a point on that and investigate that. So predictable coercion versus doctrine. This is what the courts are grappling with. So the insight that many are coming forward about conscience-based accountability and anticipating this distinction. Stop punishing inquiry. I'm not seeing this facility. Somebody says, oh, we've got a double bind. Do you beat your children? Don't you beat your children? This is the corporal punishment double bind. Stop punishing inquiry. No, Matt, we were only going to do this orally and we're going to say trust in Jehovah. That's a blow off. You're blowing things off. Saying stop punishing inquiry. And when somebody says, no, I want clarification on this double bind. You're exposing a liability. Now we come together with our pals, come together and we outvote you and we just punish you. And now you are removed from, I don't know, congregation, or you removed with privileges or removed as an elder. Well, I go, if you have done this, I don't recognize you as an elder. You disassociated yourself. In my opinion, 98% of the branch disassociated themselves when they disrespected the life of fertilized embryos in the cell lines. I haven't got an answer on this. But I go, it's not looking good. So I hope I'm speaking in the same language of systemic ethics that the court is trying to tease out, you know, trying to get to. Because, yeah, I know my videos, they're long form. I know that. But remember, some of this is trying to give persons comfort, trying to find solutions, and it's also me trying to work things out. So what's the key takeaway? Risdell's trying to say, no, it's just words, it's minor, it's neutral. The state and the judges are saying, no, the words, they're encoding predictable harm. Doctrines leverage. And the others on other forums that I see are matching the kind of things, maybe with added detail. I think we've got persons who've been doing this a lot longer than I am, with much clearer minds, whether it's framed in higher consciousness or Socratic ethics or conscience. I'm starting to see that it's actually fully aligned with the state's attempt to see harm beyond semantics. It's just operating outside the legal system. So my belief, however this unfolds, whatever decision comes from this, I'm going to attempt to ground this as a bottom line. I believe many are on solid ground, ethically, when refusing a civil case and maintaining sovereignty. Some have to do things in a different way. But yeah, the court's focus on predictable consequences is very validating on what many have known from the inside, that harm does not require first-hand reports to exist. And if you've got a metaphorical framework for trying to work things through things, or with natural law or Socratic principles as a higher order, or conscience-based frameworks, it's not fantasy. It's actually structurally analogous to prevent state action against systemic harm. So here we are at the city gates, testimony-based approach that's, I believe, becoming ethically more and more sharp and more in focus. That's coherent, it's legally resonant, and it's morally grounded. That's what I was getting from this. And that's what I think was being mirrored in the reasoning from Norway Supreme Court that was wrestling with this matter. It's not just Matt Gray's domain. I believe that this is what we are seeing. And that's why I think we will keep coming back to it, or I myself will keep coming back to this particular landmark case in February 2026. So here's my conclusion. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you for supporting. Thank you to friends. Thank you to family. Thank you to observers. I really do appreciate the comments that are coming in, the letters, the comments in the chat, the various supports when I experiment with videos, or I experimented with a live stream recently. So thank you very, very much for all of that. Even thank you for those that disagree. I want to say that you are the reason that I keep coming back to this work. It's your presence, it's your curiosity, it's the care that comes through that's meaningful. So I'm Matthew Mile Gray, and for now I'm signing off. Go well, stay curious, stay engaged, and remember, even in the heaviest of material, a little light humor and some solution-oriented perspective, it really helps us keep walking forward together. And I believe that we're getting to better places. That's my belief. That's what I hope, even if it's our own personal spiritual growth. So thank you again.